Watermans Half 2022. Let's get into some things. I'm going to scroll through the athlete guide from last year really fast. They have not updated the athlete guide from this year, and that is a trend that unfortunately continues in the kinetic multi-sports world. But anyways, most things are the same. They just haven't changed the dates here. There's a minor couple of changes here from last year, and we'll talk about that. But in all intensive purposes, things will be the same. So on Friday, you will have the ability to have packet pickup, and there will usually be a pre-race meeting. There might be a pre-race meeting along with an online version on Facebook, so keep track of that. Make sure you're following their Facebook page. They're pretty active there. It's great. You can see here that the half, the long course, that is a time trial start, and it starts at 8 o'clock in the morning with the Olympics starting 30 minutes thereafter. What that means is you're going to have athletes from the Olympic that are tracking with the half towards the later section of the swim potentially, and also on the early stages of the bike. So you'll likely get caught by some of the Olympic folks on the first loop of the bike course, but do not let that get to you. They only have to do one loop, so they should be catching you in hindsight. Okay, transition usually closes about 15 minutes before the race start at 7:45, but again, make sure you are actively going to their website and seeing what is going on. If you look at their website right now, it says it starts at that 8 o'clock again. So again, keep that in mind when you are planning your race visit. The sprint the next day, and we're going to go through these simultaneously. The sprint packet pickup, you can pick it up on Saturday if you plan to be there. Anyways, you can pick it up after the race, or you can go back up to the race site, pick up your packet, and that will make things a lot easier for you on race morning. The sprint on Sunday starts an hour later at that 9 o'clock start time. And again, transition is going to close 15 minutes before, and the transition area opens on Saturday for that 6:30 a.m. time. For that 8 o'clock start. Sunday, transition opens 7:30 for the 9 o'clock sprint start. Really fast here on page 5 of that athlete guide, you have race parking. This is the race site right here. This little pool right in there, and you will be swimming actively over in the starting spot right through here. Park here, it's a short little walk over. It's really not that bad. Overflow parking is over here as well if you don't want to park over here for whatever reason. Athlete photo check-in, or athlete pick photo, I can't even speak, athlete packet pickup, page 6. It's pretty standard stuff. Bring your ID, USAT card, and your questions. Make sure you ask a couple of questions that you have. That's going to be the easiest spot to get your questions answered. Page 7 is the course cutoff times, and the aquabike. Make sure you are looking for that aquabike finish tent when you do finish your bike. Very, very common for athletes to finish the bike, cross that line, and just think they are done. They actually have to head to the aquabike tent after they get off of the bike. It's usually right there, right before you get into the transition area, but your race time will not officially end until you check in with that tent. If there is no one there, make sure you create a scene, hoop, holler, whatever it takes. They usually are not there for the first person or two, and that you'll get a little timestamp on a little register device. It's kind of cool, but you have to check in order for your race to be done if you're on an aqua bike. Page 8, make sure you check it out. It talks about where to put your race numbers on the bike and the run. Timing chips, always the left ankle, body marking. Excuse me, make sure you do your body marking. They might not have it, but it's always good to check, and that can be one of your questions when you check in. Body marking, do you have it? Where is it? How can I do it? Aid stations on the half on the bike. There's going to be 3 aid stations on the bike, and on the Olympic, no aid stations, and the sprint, no aid stations on the bike. On the run for the half, there's going to be aid stations essentially every mile, a little bit shorter or longer in some spots, and they're going to have Gatorade and a variety of salty snacks. On the run, same thing, and on the sprint, same thing, about every mile. Going down over here on page 11, make sure you check out the USAT penalties, most commonly violated rules. They have a little short link. Make sure you check that. Usually it's drafting and littering. Page 14 talks about the swim. We do have this year an updated list of water swim charts. We are Watermans right through here. So this is a typical race year of what has been typically happening: 70, 72, 70, 75, and then 71, or let's call it 70 and a half. So I would plan on it being a wetsuit swim. I haven't checked the temperatures out there, but I would plan on bringing it just in case. They're usually pretty good about that. And that is for the Olympic, the half, and the sprint. They do talk about here, and we will pull up some maps for you really fast. Apparently we will not. So the swim, let's go back up here. So the swim's actually going to be in this harbor right through here. The swim start is right through there. Some years they let you walk through this little section right here. Other years they have you walk around to get to the start. If you are barefoot, this makes for a really long and sometimes painful walk from the transition area. Make sure you bring some throwaway shoes, or if you are there with a spectator or a support crew, make sure you are handing them your shoes once you get to this spot right here. Not uncommon for it the morning to be a little chilly, so make sure you bring extra clothes as well, and you will see people in their wetsuits trying to stay warm. The wind does come right through here. It is a little interesting to start. Time trials start here usually, otherwise they will have a mass start right through here. But either way, you're gonna hop in off of the dock. It's pretty cool. There might be a couple of jellyfish throughout this area right here, and the current usually pushes from the south to the north because it is a bay. If it is low tide and it's pulling out, it will essentially pull you north to south, but it's not terrible of a current right here. If there is a strong current out in the bay, then what will happen is you will have a swirling effect in here. It goes clockwise or counterclockwise. You will be able to see it while you are waiting. And if not, throw a piece of grass or something in the water just to double check your eyes. There will be a sandbar probably right in here, where as you are coming around the clock or the counterclockwise loop, you will be able to stand or hit it with your fingertips right through here. If it's a really bad year, you might want to think about standing up and just trudging through this or dolphin diving here. Because of that, once you make the turn right here, then you will want to start kicking your feet just in case you do have to stand up. If you do not do that, then you run the risk of cramping when you do stand up on that little on that sand barge right through there. To start out, there are a couple of poles right in through here, so make sure when you are swimming out here, you are actively watching not only the buoy, which will be probably right here, that first one, but there are a couple of old dock poles mixed in through here, so don't swim directly into one of those. It will hurt and not move. Very common for the swim start to be a little chaotic, even though it is a time trial start. This is because of the swirling effect that can sometimes happen in here. It will push a lot of athletes to the same place really quickly, and everyone will be trying to get out of the same spot, which will create that washing machine effect from years past when we had that huge mass start in all of these races that we no longer have. So expect the first little bit to be a little chaotic also because you have a couple of those poles mixed in here and there. All right. After you come around for your second loop, you will, if you are a faster swimmer, you'll have cleaner water. If you're a slower swimmer, you might run the risk of running into some of these Olympic athletes who will be getting released a half an hour after your half starts. Okay. Once you go around here, typically this section right through here is going to be the hardest section out on course. From a current perspective, it's actually going to be the starting stretch is going to be the hardest. This section right through here is going to be the most difficult because you have a bottlenecking of people once you make that left-hand turn to go back in. Also, the sun is going to be shining right through here, or it typically is if it is sunny that year, and you will have a tough time seeing the swim exit, which will be located right at the bottom of this pier right through here. Okay, on your second loop, when you are coming in here, you will or you should be able to identify what your water current is doing. Is it pushing you to the left? Is it pushing you to the right? Also, you should have a good idea of where the swim exit is because you will be able to see it when you make the turn for your second loop. So keep that in mind, and also just Just target it as best you can. Even if you can't see the turn buoy, it's always best just to aim for this one right here initially and then correct later on. That will push you out of the riffraff. If you are one of the front runners, you're going to want to totally ignore that, and you're going to want to stay on the heels of a couple people and let them pull you in a perfect scenario. Okay, if you are an aquabike person, you are going to be in it. Okay, usually they release the aquabikers last. So you're going to just be swimming through a mess of people everywhere. You're going to have to swim through the Olympic or the half people, and then on your second loop, you're going to have to swim through the Olympic people. Well, they might help you if you manage to get around quickly the first loop, because you will be up near the front of the Olympic people, and they can drive the pace for you, and you can exit with them, which would be great. And that is the swim. Let's talk about the bike really fast. So this is their race version of the bike. We're going to head over to one of my favorite sites here to talk about the bike a little bit more. So it is a 2-loop course out through here, and you can see it has 2 main profiles in it. And as I'm scrolling up, just watch up here, you can see the orange dot as it's moving along. To start out, you're going to fly through the town of Rock Hall, and then you're going to make the almost figure 8 around here, and you're going to make this left-hand turn or right-hand turn to start lap number 2. You're going to go around again, fly back into town, and be done. You could see the elevation is about 700 feet of that elevation gain, and there are a couple of things for you to note. So over here, I've already done this ahead of time. We have a original plan and we have an adjusted plan. You can see that the average power is about 10 watts more than what is the original, and that will save you a net of, in this case, about 4 minutes. There's a couple areas, though, that you really need to take note of. There's 2 models right here. We'll go through this one first, and then we'll go through the second one. If you are looking to save some time, the first segment, you can do that. It's right at the top, right through here. Switching back to my favorite one to look at, you could see from about mile 7 to mile 8.5, 9. That's going to be the spot right at the top, right through here, where you'll be able to save a huge chunk of time if the weather holds true to what it is currently forecasted right now. If we switch back to our thing right here, you can see very, very clearly that you're going to have a 10-second gain right through this section if you maintain the power or just pick it up slightly. Okay. This is going to be an area where you can bridge the gap between groups, or you can get dropped, especially on the first loop. All right, so that is an area to keep an eye out from there. Second modeled plan right here, a little bit busy. This is a picture, though, and you can see that in this model there is a 30-second gain from the first 6 miles of that race, and it butts up to that point that we just talked about right through there, which again, really, really cool stuff right through here. Right, so again, you do have a very, very large amount of time that you can maximize in the first 9 miles, regardless of the weather scenario, as it's happening right now. So that is something cool that I just wanted to take note of and allow you to see that. And actually, switching back here, you can see there are a couple of time-saving other opportunities in here, but for the most part, in this first model, it is not worth it. Okay. In the second model, things start to get a little bit better, 3-second gains here and there, but what you're really after are these sections where you do have 10 seconds of gain, and this one lasts for quite some time throughout. So again, make sure you check your best bike split, and this is an easy thing to watch out for. Weather on this course, routinely coming from the northeast, pushing you down. What that means for you is it's going to be a battle on the way out, and it's going to be really fun on the way back. I will tell you, though, that out here the course does have swirling wind, and it will feel like a head or a crosswind for most of the day, probably 90% of the day. There's only going to be a couple of places where you do feel like you have a total tailwind, and it will be over before you know it. Even with that tailwind coming back in, when you do start to finish this course, it will be tough. You're just going to have to stay mentally strong, and this is going to be a course where it doesn't stimulate you visually at all. So you're just going to have to go and stimulate yourself. What I would always do at a course like this, is look for the person in front of me or try to catch someone else. If a big group passes you, try to keep them in your sights as long as possible while maintaining your power. Another thing to take note of, because the course is not a super hilly course, you might have to get out of that arrow position more than you want to, but if you get locked in over the course of the day, it's going to be very, very difficult to run later on. And that is typically a quick breakdown of the bike course, but in hindsight, you're probably going to have a couple other areas to watch out for. The first one being right here at mile 14.5. It is a sharp left or sharp right turn, and you will immediately go up into another uphill right through there. And so let's highlight the back section of this course, and you can see here, this is that right-hand turn right through here, and you do have a quick pop right through here, and then you zigzag all the way through this area, and then you make another right-hand turn, and these hills back here are not very big, but because of the efforts that you just did, they will feel very big. So keep that in the back of your head, and don't put all your chickens in one power basket coming off of that right-hand turn. You're going to need to save some for this back section, and especially with that wind shift out on race day. But for those first 8-9 miles, if you are feeling decent, you might want to think about upping the power 5-ish watts to put a little pressure on the people behind you or catch up to the people in front of you. Very common place for athletes to kind of falter is this first little section right here on Route 298. Right through here, it is a little up and down, and that will play major games with you because the first 10 miles was really, really flat. Again, maintain your pace, your power, and you will be just fine. The Watermans run course out here. Again, aid stations are going to come fast and frequent out here. You're going to start things off with this out and back section right here, and the remainder of this run really isn't even worth talking about from an elevation standpoint. It's very, very flat, so you're going to be in your own head right here. It's very common for athletes to play games with one another. If a stronger runner is there, maybe they go out a little bit harder, and that totally pops the athletes behind them. So in this course, you really need to run your own race regardless of what someone else is doing. There's a ton of out and back sections, and you will be able to see a lot of people on this course a lot, right? Make sure you ask where the aid stations are going to specifically be. I haven't been able to find a map or specific placement of these aid stations, but just know that they will be out there very, very frequently. For whatever reason, this course does get hot, so if the weather is forecasted for anything above 75 on the run, expect it to be hot weather protocol throughout. Make sure you're bringing extra salt for this race. Make sure you are remembering to fuel on the bike, because that will set up your run for success later on. That's the Watermans half. And Olympic, believe it or not. You know, the Olympic, you're going to be pushing a little bit harder, and on this course, you will forget to fuel, so make sure you just have a timer or something to remind you. For the sprint, the sprint is going to be really, really fast. It's going to be fun. Again, make sure you are fueling on the bike. Make sure you have a gel or two on the run or the last stages of the bike to help set you up for the run. And it's going to be a fun, fun day. This is one of the best courses to race on. So good luck, everybody.